Home Alone wasn't just a Christmas movie. It was booby traps that sent stuntmen to the hospital, a child star who terrified his co-star, and a script Disney threw away before Fox turned it into gold. The house isn't where you think it is. One scream was too loud for the final cut. And that girlfriend photo, it wasn't a girl at all. These are 20 weird facts about Home Alone. Number 20. Macaulay Culkin wasn't the first choice for Kevin.
Today. Other than that, I'm in good shape. I made my family disappear.
Before, Macaulay Culkin became the face of Christmas chaos. The role of Kevin McAllister was offered to several other child actors. Director Chris Columbus had his eye on different kids, children with more traditional acting credits, more experience, safer choices. These were kids who'd done commercials, television shows, kids with agents who returned calls, and parents who understood contracts. But John Hughes, who wrote the script in just 9 days, had a different vision. He'd worked with Culkin on Uncle Buck the year before and saw something special. Not perfection, but presence. Culkin had this ability to be sweet and dangerous at the same time, innocent but calculating. He could make you love him and fear for the burglars in the same scene. Hughes insisted Columbus see Culkin audition. Columbus resisted at first, though the kid was too young, too small, too unknown. But the moment Culkin read the line, where Kevin realizes he made his family disappear, Columbus stopped him midway through. He didn't need to see more. That mix of wonder and mischief, guilt and joy, it was all right there. Culkin wasn't acting like a kid, he was a kid, reacting honestly to an absurd situation. The other boys read their lines perfectly, hit their marks, smiled on cue. Culkin made you believe an 8-year-old could actually defend a house against grown men. And once he was cast, nobody ever questioned it again. Because Kevin McAllister wasn't in the role anymore. It was Macaulay Culkin, and no one else could have done it. Number 19. Joe Pesci actually bit Macaulay Culkin. During rehearsal,
we're gonna be doing even better, because we're not robbing houses anymore. Now we're robbing toy stores. At midnight tonight, we're hitting Duncan's toy
What are we
chest.
gonna do to him, Harry?
Do exactly what he did to us. I'm gonna burn his head with a blowtorch.
And smash his face with an iron.
Joe Pesci didn't do things halfway. When he took the role of Harry, he committed completely. This wasn't a silly comedy to him. It was a character study. A burglar, desperate and dangerous, who happened to be funny. During early rehearsals, there's a scene where Harry grabs Kevin, threatens him, and gets right in his face. The blocking calls for Pesci to grab Culkin's finger, to intimidate him, make him understand the danger. But Pesci, deep in character and wanting the moment to feel real, bit down, hard. Culkin yelped, pulled his hand back, tears forming in his eyes. The rehearsal stopped immediately. Pesci snapped out of character, absolutely mortified. He apologized over and over, pulled Culkin aside, and explained he'd gotten too into the moment. The bite left a mark, not serious enough for medical attention, but visible for days. Columbus considered it a problem, worried about child safety. But Culkin surprised everyone. He said it was okay, that it actually helped, because now he knew Harry was genuinely dangerous. From that point forward, every scene with Pesci carried real fear. You can see it in Culkin's eyes. He's not pretending to be scared. He remembers the bite, remembers that Pesci isn't acting. He's becoming someone else. Years later, Culkin talked about it in interviews, and still has a tiny scar. He doesn't hold a grudge. He said it taught him something about commitment, about how far real actors go to make a moment truthful. Pesci gave him fear, and Culkin gave that fear back to the camera. Number 18. The McAllister house isn't in Chicago. Every fan knows the McAllisters live in Chicago. The airport, the pizza, the setting, it's all Chicago. Except the house. That iconic red brick Georgian colonial with the perfect Christmas decorations and the massive staircase. That's not in Chicago at all. It's located at 671 Lincoln Avenue in Winnetka, Illinois, a wealthy suburb about 16 miles north of the city. The neighborhood is old money, tree-lined streets, houses that cost millions. When location scouts found it, they knew immediately it was perfect. Grand enough to justify why burglars would target it, but warm enough to feel like a real family home. The homeowners at the time were paid $50,000 for 6 weeks of exterior filming and minor interior shots. At first, they thought it was great money for minimal disruption. They had no idea what they'd signed up for. When Home Alone became a phenomenon, tourists started showing up. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands every single year. Families recreating scenes on the front lawn, couples taking engagement photos on the steps, tour buses idling outside. The homeowners couldn't leave their house without cameras flashing. They eventually regretted the decision, considered moving, and even looked into legal ways to stop the tourism. But there was nothing they could do. Their home had become a landmark. In 2021, the house sold for $5.2 million, and the real estate listing literally mentioned Home Alone as a selling point. The new owners knew what they were buying. Not just a house, but a piece of movie history that comes with permanent foot traffic and zero privacy. Number 17. Daniel Stern's Scream was dubbed because it was too loud. Daniel Stern is a physical comedian. His whole body becomes a joke. When Marv steps on Christmas ornaments, gets hit with paint cans, takes a blowtorch to the head, Stern commits to every moment with full-throated screams. Real, primal, guttural screams that came from somewhere deep. During filming, those screams echoed across the soundstage, made crew members jump, and felt genuinely painful. Columbus loved them at the moment. But when they got into editing, there was a problem. The screams were too loud, too real, too intense. In the logic of the movie, these burglars are getting hurt, but nobody in the neighborhood hears anything. The police never show up. The neighbors sleep through it, but Stern's screams would wake the dead. They brought Stern back into the studio for ADR, automated dialogue replacement. He had to re-record every single scream, but quieter, more controlled, less realistic. It felt wrong to him. He'd given those performances everything, and now they wanted him to pull back. But he understood. The movie operated on cartoon logic. Wile E. Coyote getting flattened by an anvil. If the screams were too authentic, suddenly the movie becomes about real violence, real pain, and the magic dies. So, Stern stood in a sound booth and screamed softly, if that's even possible. He modulated his pain, turned agony into comedy, and it worked. The final screams are iconic, quotable, and funny. But somewhere in a vault, the original screams exist, the real ones, and people who heard them said they were genuinely disturbing. Number 16. The tarantula scene traumatized Daniel Stern. Daniel Stern is funny. He's professional. He commits to bits, but he has a genuine, deep-rooted phobia of spiders. Not discomfort, not squeamishness, actual terror. When he read the script and saw that Marv gets a tarantula placed on his face, he went to Columbus and tried to get out of it. Offer alternatives. Could it be a different bug? A snake? Anything but a spider? Columbus said no. The spider was crucial. It had to be a tarantula, big and terrifying. The kind of thing that would make anyone scream. Stern tried to prepare himself mentally. He talked to the animal handler, learned about the spider, and tried to rationalize his fear. It didn't help. The day of shooting, they brought out the tarantula. Just seeing it made Stern nauseous. They did a test run where the handler placed it on Stern's face for 2 seconds. Stern broke immediately, screamed, flailed, and threw the spider across the room. The handler had to chase it down. They tried again. Same result. Over and over, Stern couldn't control his panic response. Hours passed. The crew grew frustrated. Finally, they made a compromise. They'd shoot it in tiny pieces. The spider would only touch his face for 3 seconds, maximum per take. They'd shoot it from multiple angles and cut it together to make it look longer. Even with that agreement, it took 26 takes, Stern sweating, shaking, fighting every instinct to run. When they finally got it, he walked off set, didn't talk to anyone for an hour. Years later, he still won't watch that scene. Number 15. John Candy improvised his entire role. In one 23-hour day, Gus Polinski and Kenosha Kickers weren't in the original script, not a single line. John Hughes added the scene during rewrites when he realized Kate needed help getting home, needed a moment of kindness to balance all the chaos. He called John Candy personally. They had worked together on several films, had mutual respect, and genuine friendship. Hughes explained the scene and offered to send pages. Candy said, "Don't bother, I'll figure it out." He agreed to do it as a favor, refused payment, and flew to Chicago for exactly 1 day of shooting. 23 hours on set, start to finish. When Candy arrived, Columbus handed him a rough outline. Polka band drives Kate home. That was it. Everything else, Candy made up on the spot. The Kenosha Kicker's name, the story about leaving his kid at a funeral home, the entire emotional monologue about forgetting children, all improvised. Catherine O'Hara didn't know what he was going to say. She just reacted honestly, and her tears were real because Candy's story was so absurd and heartfelt at the same time. They shot the van scenes continuously, Candy riffing for hours, trying different stories, different emotional beats. Columbus kept the cameras rolling because everything Candy said was gold. The polka music playing in the background was added later, but Candy pretended to hear it, bopped along to nothing, made the entire band feel real. By the time they wrapped, Candy had been awake for over 20 hours, created an entire character from scratch, and disappeared back to Toronto before the sun came up. He never saw a paycheck, never asked for credit beyond what was contractually required, just showed up, gave one of the most memorable performances in the film, and left. That's the kind of actor John Candy was. Number 14. The fake snow caused major production. DeLay's Home Alone, filmed in Chicago during autumn 1989, the problem was obvious immediately: no snow anywhere. Temperatures were hovering in the 50s and 60s, trees still had leaves, the ground was brown and green. For a Christmas movie, it was a disaster. The production couldn't wait for real winter, the schedule was locked, the cast had commitments, so they had to manufacture winter from scratch. The special effects team brought in industrial snow machines and thousands of pounds of fake snow, not the soap flake stuff from old Hollywood. This was a newer mixture: bleached cornflakes, shredded white paper, potato flakes, and wax particles designed to photograph like real snow. It looked perfect on camera under the lights, but it had problems, serious problems. When it got wet from morning dew or light rain, it smelled terrible, like rotting vegetables mixed with chemicals. The smell attracted insects, wasps, and flies buzzing around what they thought was food. Crew members were getting stung. The actors were complaining. Worse, when real rain hit, the fake snow turned into a disgusting paste that stuck to everything and had to be completely removed and replaced. This happened 4 times during production, each time costing a full day of work and thousands of dollars. The art department had to coordinate with weather forecasts constantly, covering the snow with tarps overnight, removing it when humidity got too high. One morning, they arrived to find raccoons had torn through the tarps and scattered fake snow across 3 blocks. It took 18 crew members 5 hours to clean up and reset. By the end of production, they'd used over 3 tons of fake snow, employed 6 full-time crew members just to maintain it, and Columbus swore he'd never shoot a winter movie in autumn again. Number 13. The BB gun scene. Almost earned the film an R rating. The MPAA didn't think Home Alone was funny. They thought it was violent. When the ratings board screened an early cut, they flagged over a dozen scenes as too intense for children. The paint cans, the blowtorch, the iron to the face, all of it concerned them. But the scene that almost culled the PG rating entirely was Kevin shooting Marv in the forehead with the BB gun. In the original cut, you saw the BB gun fire, saw Marv's head snap back, saw him scream and clutch his face with blood implications. The MPAA said absolutely not. Too realistic. Too dangerous? Kids would imitate it. Someone would lose an eye. Columbus fought back hard. He argued the entire movie operated on cartoon logic. These burglars survive things that would call real people. It's fantasy violence, not realistic violence. The MPAA didn't budge. They said if the BB gun scene stayed as filmed, Home Alone would get a PG-13 rating minimum, possibly R if they decided it crossed the line into instructional violence. For a family Christmas movie, that was a death sentence. No parents would take young kids. The box office would collapse. Columbus had no choice. He went back into editing and softened the scene dramatically. He cut away before impact, removed the blood implications, added a comedic sound effect, shortened Marv's scream. He turned it from realistic to cartoonish. The MPAA watched the new version and approved it for PG. But Columbus was bitter about it for years. He felt the ratings board didn't understand the tone and didn't trust audiences to know the difference between fantasy and reality. And maybe he was right. But without those changes, Home Alone never would have become the phenomenon it did. Number 12. John Williams recorded the score. In just 2 weeks, John Williams was already a legend. Jaws, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, E.T. When Chris Columbus approached him about scoring Home Alone, Williams loved the script, but had a massive problem. His schedule was completely packed. He was committed to multiple projects, had recording sessions booked months in advance, had barely any openings. Columbus begged. He told Williams the movie wouldn't work without the right music, that it needed warmth and magic and emotion. Williams wanted to help, but physically didn't have time. Finally, he found a gap. 2 weeks, 14 days between finishing one score and starting another. That was it. Take it or leave it. Columbus took it. Williams composed the entire Home Alone score in 14 days. The main theme, Somewhere in My Memory, became one of the most recognizable Christmas songs ever written. He wrote it in 3 days, recorded it in one session, and moved on. The action cues, the emotional moments, the comedic stings, all of it composed at lightning speed. Williams later admitted it was one of the most stressful jobs of his career. He wasn't sleeping, was working 18-hour days, composing in hotel rooms and airport lounges between other commitments. The orchestra had minimal rehearsal time. They recorded most cues in single takes because there was no time for perfection. Williams conducted with the edited film playing behind him, making adjustments on the fly, trusting his instincts. And somehow, impossibly, it worked. The score feels timeless, carefully crafted, like he'd spent months on it. But it was 14 days of pure creative panic. Williams said he's never worked that fast before or since, and he never wants to again. Number 11. The church scene was filmed in a real operating church.
I'm kind of upset about it because I really like my family. Even though sometimes I say I don't. Sometimes I even think I don't.
The moment between Kevin and Old Man Marley in the church is the emotional heart of Home Alone. It's quiet, honest, the one scene where the chaos stops and something real happens. Director Chris Columbus knew it had to feel authentic, not like a set. So they didn't build one. They found a real church. Trinity United Methodist Church in Wilmette, Illinois. A beautiful old building with worn wooden pews, stained glass windows, the weight of history in every corner. The church agreed to let them film, but with strict conditions. They couldn't interfere with regular services, couldn't move any religious items, couldn't disrupt the congregation's schedule. So, the production worked around real church life. They filmed late at night after evening services ended. They shot on weekdays when the building was mostly empty. They had to pause filming multiple times when church events were scheduled, memorial services, weddings, choir practice. It stretched the shooting schedule but gave the scene something priceless. Authenticity. When Kevin sits in that pew talking to Marley, you feel the space. It's not Hollywood magic. It's a real place where real people come to find peace. Roberts Blossom, who played Marley, was a method actor. He insisted on sitting in the church alone for hours before filming, getting comfortable, understanding the space. He wanted his performance to feel like a man who'd spent years sitting in that exact spot, thinking about his life, his regrets, and it worked. The scene doesn't feel acted. It feels like a genuine conversation between a lonely old man and a scared kid, all because they filmed it in a real church that had real souls. Number 10. Chris Columbus slept on the set to save time.
He's only a kid, Harry.
Chris Columbus was obsessed, not in a bad way, but in the way directors get when they know they're making something special and can't afford to waste a single second. Home Alone had a tight shooting schedule, a limited budget, and a child actor who could only work restricted hours. Under labor laws, every minute mattered. Columbus lived 40 minutes away from the main shooting location. Driving home meant losing over an hour every day, an hour he could spend prepping, planning, perfecting. So, he made a decision that shocked the studio. He started sleeping on set. He brought a sleeping bag, claimed a corner of the McAllister house set, and lived there. Not occasionally, multiple nights per week. He'd work until 2 in the morning, reviewing dailies, planning the next day's shots, working with the cinematographer on lighting setups. Then, he'd unroll his sleeping bag, sleep for 4 or 5 hours, and wake up before the crew arrived. He'd walk through the house with his coffee, checking props, adjusting details, doing location scouts in his pajamas. The crew thought he was insane. Studio executives worried he'd burn out, collapse, make mistakes from exhaustion. But Columbus was energized. He said living in the space made him understand it better. Notice things he'd miss if he only showed up for work. He'd test angles at 3 in the morning, move furniture, realize a shot wouldn't work, and fix it before anyone else arrived. His dedication terrified some people, but it inspired the crew. If the director cared this much, sleeping in a sleeping bag to save commute time, how could anyone else give less than everything? That commitment shows in every frame. Number 9. The pizza scene. Started. A real franchise. War.
Who is it?
It's Little Nero, sir. I have your pizza.
Leave it on the doorstep and get the hell.
Little Nero's Pizza doesn't exist. It never did. The production designers created it as a fictional Chicago pizza chain, made the boxes, designed the logo, and invented the name as a play on Little Caesars. It was just a throwaway detail, set dressing to make the opening scenes feel real. Nobody thought about it twice. Then Home Alone became a massive hit, and suddenly everyone wanted a piece of Little Nero's. Multiple real pizza chains saw an opportunity. The movie had made Little Nero's feel like a beloved brand, and millions of people had seen those boxes. So they tried to trademark the name. A Chicago pizzeria filed first, claiming they should own the rights because the film was set in Chicago. A California chain filed next, arguing they'd actually created a Little Nero's concept before the film. Then, a New York company jumped in, saying they'd been using a similar name for years. Legal battles erupted. Lawyers sent cease and desist letters. Companies fought in court over who could claim ownership of a completely fictional pizza place from a movie. Hughes Entertainment and Fox had to get involved, arguing that Little Nero's was intellectual property created for the film. The legal mess took years to sort out. In the end, nobody got the trademark cleanly, but several pizza places opened anyway, calling themselves variations of the name, hoping to capitalize on the connection. Some are still operating today, their entire identity built on a fake pizza chain from a Christmas movie. Columbus later joked that if he'd known Little Nero's would cause this much trouble, he would have just used a real pizza company and gotten paid for product placement. Number 8. The paint cans required professional stuntmen. And 40 takes the...
Heads up! Don't worry, Marv, I'll get him for you. Don't worry, Marv, I'll get him for you. Yes!
Paint can scene is iconic. Marv and Harry climbing the stairs, paint cans swinging down, direct hits to the face, bodies flying backward. It looks effortless, perfectly choreographed, almost balletic. Behind the scenes, it was a nightmare. The production used real metal paint cans because plastic ones didn't look right on camera, didn't have the proper weight and movement. But real paint cans filled with sand to simulate full paint weight were dangerous weapons. Even at controlled speeds, they could cause serious damage. The stunt coordinator designed elaborate safety rigs, cables that would control the swing speed, limit the impact force. The stuntmen wore hidden protective headgear under foam prosthetics designed to look like Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci's faces. But even with protection, the impacts were brutal. One stuntman took a hit that gave him a concussion despite the padding. Another cracked a rib when he landed wrong after getting knocked backward. The insurance company got nervous, threatening to shut down the shoot if anyone else got injured. Columbus had to slow everything down, do more test runs, and add more safety measures. They needed 40 takes to get both paint can hits perfect. The timing had to be exact, the swings had to look natural, the reactions had to sell the impact without looking fake. Hours and hours of stuntmen getting hit in the face with sand-filled metal cans. When they finally got it, the stunt coordinator said it was the most difficult gag he'd ever coordinated for a comedy. Because in comedies, people expect you to just do it and be funny. They don't realize how much precision and pain goes into making cartoon violence look real. Number 7. Buzz's girlfriend was actually the art director's son.
Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof. Bed.
I wouldn't let you sleep in my room if you were growing on my ass.
Buzz's bedroom has a photo on the dresser, his girlfriend, and she's not conventionally attractive. The joke is cruel but effective. Buzz, the bully brother, somehow has a girlfriend, and Kevin mocks it. In the original script, the production was supposed to find a real girl, take her photo, and use it in the scene. But as they got closer to filming, Chris Columbus had second thoughts. This photo would be in a movie seen by millions of people. This girl, whoever she was, would be mocked endlessly for decades. Her face would become a punchline, and she'd have to live with that forever. Columbus refused to do that to someone. He told the art department to figure something else out. They couldn't use a random girl's photo, couldn't ask someone to volunteer for ridicule. So the art director had an idea: his son. He was the right age, had shoulder-length hair and delicate features. With the right styling, makeup, and a wig, he could pass for a girl in a still photo. They did a test, shot a few Polaroids. It worked perfectly. Nobody could tell. They paid the art director's son scale wages, he signed a release, and the photo went into the movie. For 30 years, audiences assumed it was a real girl. The art director and his son kept quiet, didn't tell anyone, and let the secret stay hidden. It wasn't until a 20-year anniversary interview that Columbus finally revealed the truth. He said he's proud of that decision, that choosing kindness over an easy joke was the right call. The scene is still funny, but nobody's real life was destroyed to make it happen. Number 6. Several scenes were cut. Because they were too scary, Home Alone walks a fine line. It's a comedy about a kid torturing burglars, but it can't cross into genuine horror, or parents won't bring their children. Chris Columbus shot the movie with that balance in mind, but he pushed boundaries. He wanted the stakes to feel real. In early cuts, several traps were more violent, more explicit, darker in tone. One deleted scene showed Marv stepping on broken glass that Kevin had spread across the floor. Not ornaments, actual broken bottle glass. Sharp, jagged, dangerous. The camera showed blood, showed Marv pulling shards out of his foot, showed real pain. Test audiences with children were disturbed. Kids squirmed, some cried, parents complained. Another cut scene involved Kevin setting a small fire that actually burned Marv's shoes while he was wearing them. Marv had to stop, drop, and roll, screaming about the smell of burning flesh. Again, too much, too real. The line between cartoon violence and actual torture was blurring. Columbus watched the test screening reactions and made immediate cuts. He removed anything that drew blood, anything that showed burns, anything that made the violence feel genuinely dangerous. He added more comedic sound effects, more exaggerated reactions, more distance between the trap and the impact. The theatrical cut is significantly softer than what Columbus originally filmed. Somewhere in a vault, a darker version of Home Alone exists. One where Kevin is less a clever kid and more a genuinely disturbed child. Columbus has said he'll never release those scenes, that they don't belong in the movie audience's love. Some things are better left hidden. Number 5. The aftershave slap was completely real.
Toothbrush, so I'll pick one up when I go out today. Other than that, I'm in good shape. When I go out today. Other than that, I'm in good shape.
The most iconic image from Home Alone isn't a booby trap or a one-liner. It's Macaulay Culkin's face, hands pressed to his cheeks, mouth wide open in a perfect scream of shock. That moment, Kevin applying aftershave and reacting to the sting, has been parodied, memed, and referenced for over 3 decades. It's on t-shirts, posters, and holiday cards. It defined Culkin's career, and it wasn't acting. The setup was simple. Kevin is pretending to be an adult, goes through his father's bathroom routine, and finds aftershave. The script called for him to apply it and react with exaggerated pain. Columbus wanted it big, cartoonish, memorable. They did a few takes with water, letting Culkin practice the physical comedy. He came up with the hands-on-cheeks gesture himself, a natural reaction to sudden pain. Columbus loved it, but the reaction wasn't big enough, wasn't genuine enough. So they made a decision, use real aftershave. Not watered down, not fake movie prop version. Actual alcohol-based aftershave from the 1950s that Peter McAllister would actually use. They told Culkin what they were doing and warned him it would sting. He was 8 years old and didn't really understand how much. They rolled cameras. Culkin slapped the aftershave on his face. The alcohol hit his young, sensitive skin and burned immediately. His eyes went wide, his hands flew to his face, and he screamed. Completely real, completely unfiltered shock. Columbus yelled cut, rushed over to make sure Culkin was okay. He was fine, just surprised by how much it hurt. They got it in one take, that perfect, genuine reaction that would define the entire movie. Sometimes the best moments aren't acted at all. Number 4. Catherine O'Hara demanded her character be more than a prop.
Thank you. Peter, I'm gonna call the police. Why don't you book us a flight home? Here, get some change out of here. Call everybody you know. Oh, Leslie.
You forgot him.
I didn't forget him. We just miscounted.
What kind of mother am I?
It makes you feel any better.
Kate McAllister was originally written as a generic movie mom. Hysterical, one-dimensional, just there to cry and worry and make the plot move forward. She had maybe 12 lines total, most of them variations of, "Where's Kevin?" and "We forgot him." Catherine O'Hara read the script and immediately knew it wasn't enough. She'd built a career playing complicated women with depth and humor, and she wasn't about to play a cardboard cutout in a Christmas movie. So she went to Chris Columbus and John Hughes with demands. She wanted to rewrite her scenes, add dimensions, make Kate a real person instead of just Kevin's panicked mother. Hughes was protective of his script and didn't usually let actors make changes, but O'Hara was persistent. She argued that Kate needed to be funny, needed to be determined, needed to drive her own story instead of just reacting to Kevin's. She worked with Hughes directly, sitting in his office, pitching ideas, and rewriting dialogue. The scene where Kate screams at the ticket agent, the moment she trades her earrings for a bus ticket, the entire sequence where she bullies her way onto flights and through airports. That was O'Hara's contribution. She turned Kate from a prop into a parallel hero. Columbus watched the dailies and realized O'Hara had been right. Kate's determination mirrored Kevin's resourcefulness. While Kevin defended the house, Kate fought across the country to get back to him. Two McAllisters refused to give up. The movie became stronger because O'Hara refused to settle for less. She made Kate memorable, quotable, genuinely touching. And she did it by demanding more from a script that didn't think mothers needed to be anything other than worried. O'Hara knew better. Number 3. The film was shot in just 120 days.
Bandits. Wet bandits. W-E. Shut up! Shut up! Get in the car! Hey, come on. Hands up that!
Hollywood productions usually take months, sometimes over a year for complicated shoots. Sets get built, then rebuilt. Actors have conflicts. Weather delays everything. Reshoots add weeks or months. Home Alone had none of that luxury. Chris Columbus had exactly 120 days to shoot the entire film. That's it. Principal photography started in February 1990 and had to wrap before summer because Macaulay Culkin was enrolled in school and legally couldn't work during the academic year. The clock was ticking from day one, and there was zero room for error or delays. Columbus ran the tightest ship in Hollywood. Every single day was planned down to the minute. Shot lists were military precise. He rarely went over schedule, almost never needed extra takes beyond what was necessary. If a scene was scheduled for 4 hours, it took 3 hours and 50 minutes. The crew called him a machine, meant as a compliment. He was efficient without being cruel, fast without sacrificing quality. Child labor laws added another complication. Culkin could only work 8 hours per day with mandatory breaks for school tutoring. So, Columbus shot scenes with Culkin first thing every morning when he was fresh and energetic, then moved to scenes with adults or stunts while Culkin was in school sessions. The production wrapped on schedule, exactly 120 days after it started. Not a single day over. Columbus brought the film in under budget too, which almost never happens. Studio executives were stunned. 20th Century Fox had gambled on an unproven director with a quirky script, and he delivered a completed film faster and cheaper than anyone expected. That efficiency is part of why Columbus became one of the most reliable directors in Hollywood. He proved he could handle anything. Number 2. Joe Pesci deliberately avoided Macaulay Culkin. Offset.
Who? Shoot him, Harry.
Do exactly what he did to us. And I'll burn his head with a blowtorch.
You can smash his face with an iron.
Like us.
Joe Pesci is a method actor. Not in the pretentious way where he demands everyone call him by his character name, but in the deep way where he becomes someone else entirely and doesn't break until filming ends. When he took the role of Harry, he made a deliberate choice about how to approach it. Harry is genuinely dangerous. He's not a bumbling cartoon villain. He's a criminal who would hurt a child if given the chance. For Kevin to be properly scared, for the audience to feel real stakes, Pesci needed Macaulay Culkin to be genuinely afraid of him. So he decided never to interact with Culkin when cameras weren't rolling. On set, between takes, while other actors joked around and kept things light, Pesci stayed in character. He didn't smile at Culkin, didn't ruffle his hair, didn't ask how school was going. He remained distant, cold, intimidating. When they broke for lunch, Pesci ate separately. When Culkin tried to talk to him during downtime, Pesci would grunt and walk away. It wasn't cruelty, it was a calculation. He wanted Culkin to associate him with danger, to feel genuine discomfort whenever Harry appeared on screen, and it worked. In every scene they share, you can see real fear in Culkin's eyes. After filming wrapped, Pesci finally broke character. He found Culkin, explained what he'd been doing and why, apologized for being distant. Culkin understood, said it made sense, but admitted it had been confusing and a little scary. Years later, Culkin talked about it in interviews. He said Pesci's commitment taught him that great actors don't just perform, they manipulate reality to serve the story. And sometimes that means making a kid genuinely uncomfortable for 4 months. Number 1. Disney rejected Home Alone before Fox saved it Home Alone.
Mom, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry too.
Home Alone was originally developed at Warner Brothers, then moved to Disney under a different executive. John Hughes had a deal with Disney. They trusted him after producing several successful films. The script was quirky, sweet, marketable. Disney greenlit it with an initial budget of $8 million. Then production started planning. Location scouts, set designs, casting sessions. Every department came back with numbers. $8 million wouldn't be enough. Not even close. The realistic budget landed around $14 million, potentially climbing to $17 million if anything went wrong during production. Disney executives panicked. $14 million for a Christmas comedy with no major stars, with an unproven child actor, with a premise that was basically child endangerment played for laughs. It felt risky. Too risky. They held meetings, ran projections, and decided the numbers didn't work. So, they dropped the project entirely, just walked away from Home Alone, and left John Hughes scrambling to find a new studio. Hughes was furious but determined. He packaged the script with Chris Columbus attached to direct and took it to every studio in Hollywood. Most passed. Too expensive. Too weird. Too much liability with a child in danger. Then 20th Century Fox said yes. They saw what Disney couldn't. A universal story about family, loneliness, and a kid being brave. They gave Hughes the budget, trusted Columbus, and released Home Alone in November 1990. It made over $477 million worldwide. It became the highest-grossing film of 1990 and launched a franchise worth billions. Disney executives spent decades being reminded of their decision. Every Christmas, every rewatch, every time someone mentions Home Alone, Disney knows they walked away from one of the most successful comedies ever made. Because they got scared over $6 million. Home Alone didn't play it safe. It bit actors, traumatized stuntmen, and turned rejected scripts into box office gold. Because sometimes the best Christmas miracles happen when studios say no and someone else says yes.